Hey everyone,
Hi.
we're back. We're live again. We're down here at First Street, and we have Erik up in Lincoln with us. He is going to kind of go over 4 or 5 different beer cocktails that you can make right at home with a few of our favorite Nebraska craft beers. Hey Erik.
Hi, how you doing?
We're doing pretty good. We're not cocktailing it
Been
down
watching
here
you guys.
quite yet.
What?
We're not cocktailing it down here quite yet, but we will be here shortly after you show us what to do. So I'll pass the screen on over to you, and we'll let you go at it.
All right. Well, let me know if you got any questions. But basically, I got asked to come in. Well, I'm not anywhere. I'm in my kitchen, but to make a couple of beer cocktails. You know, I am a gentleman who likes to make a little bit of a tiki drink every once in a while. So I've got all my syrups and everything ready to go. But sometimes that's just too complicated. And so you want to start with something simple and something easy. And so the basis of making a beer cocktail is essentially you are using the beer for the major ingredient for whatever you want to drink. And usually you're going to go one of 2 different ways. You're going to increase your total alcohol content, and that's usually by adding more alcohol to the beer. And then there's one that wanted to decrease the amount of alcohol that is in what you're making, because you want something that's a little bit lighter, something that's going to last a little bit longer, maybe not, get you too lit up before the midday, So, and in that case, you're usually mixing with like some other ingredient, usually a fruit juice or something like that, something that's going to bring down the total alcohol of what you're drinking. But when we're going to start with basically the Boilermaker, and everybody knows what a Boilermaker is. It's basically a shot of whiskey and a beer. Depends on what you want. I know in Jake's downtown here in Lincoln, they have the Hutch where you can get, I think it's a PBR and a shot of Jameson, or an old style. Maybe I can't remember which one it is, but usually it's just something pretty simple, a light American lager and a shot to go with it. It's usually made all around the world. As soon as you clock out of work, I want to punch the clock and I want to drink that drink and just get happy as soon as possible after work is out. But we're going to start off with one of my favorites. This is Rock Your Saws Off. This is a seasonal. This comes from Cosmic Eye, and it's actually a collaboration between Cosmic Eye and Scratchtown. And this is essentially imperial malt liquor. It's 7.8%. And so we're going to just have ourselves a nice pour of Rock Your Saws Off, but we're going to make a Boilermaker out of this. And I thought, what better way to augment a malt liquor than by adding mellow corn, which is a 100% corn mash whiskey that is 100 proof. It's one of the few bottled and bond whiskeys that you can get, and it's also super cheap. You can buy this for like $12 a bottle, and which is surprising, which is pretty good. But you don't want to overdo it. I would do about an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half, and we're just going to pour that right into the beer. We'll just top that off a little bit. And I'm sure Sam is watching this, and I'm not sure if he's laughing or grimacing. Yeah, that really kind of kicks it up a notch, just a little bit. So we're talking about a beer that was already almost 8%, and now I've added 100 proof spirit into it by about an ounce. That'll be fun quickly. Let's just say that much. So that'll get us started. Pretty simple, really basic. That's a Boilermaker. That's what we're usually talking about. But there's other variations on that. I know a lot of times you can do a stout, and if I say a dry stout, and you know the one I'm talking about, you make it, black and tans and everything else. You can also make a black and black, and that can be done a couple different ways. You can basically take the stout and you add a shot of blackberry brandy. I've also seen it done where you take a stout and you add a shot of coffee liqueur. You're just basically adding something that has a complementary flavor profile to the beer that you're drinking, and you also want to get messed up a little bit, so you're up in the alcohol content of that. But All right, so we did that. That's the traditional Boilermaker. Let's try something a little different. I would just like to say thank you, First Street, for canning. I was able to find you in the shop. So this is the Hastings IPA. Gwen and I were drinking this a little bit earlier while we were trying to figure out what we were going to do here. And the thing about an IPA is sometimes you would think that just having a little bit extra sweetness might combat the hop character of the IPA. And you might be right in some cases, but I really think that an IPA stands up better to aromatics, herbal liqueurs, an Aperol or something like that. And so what we actually came up with was putting some Campari in an IPA. For those of you familiar with the Negroni, this is your favorite liqueur to have on the shelf. But it's 24% alcohol, so it's a little bit up there. It's like a fortified wine, but it's a really nice bittering agent. But it is very, very, very good at adding bitterness. And so you don't want to overdo this. I would start out with 1 ounce for a can of beer. And if you still want more, you can always add more. It's kind of like salt. Once you put it in, you can't take it out again. So, and that's going to give us a nice, wonderful color. Rinse this real quick. I'm going to have to use this later, and I don't want it to be painted with Campari. So that's got the nice hop aroma that came from the beer. And a little something extra. And the bitterness just comes right through. This really intense bitter flavor. And it actually kind of twists off on the hop. And it's just like it's multiplied. It's not additional. Very fresh, very clean, very succinct. It is a sharp flavor, and it's going to stick with you for a little bit. And this is also going to, if you're sitting out on the porch or whatever, yeah, I did add a little bit of alcohol to this, and that technically makes this a more alcoholic beverage than just drinking the beer. But you're probably going to drink this one a little bit slower. Just in general, you get a really bitter, intense beer like that, and it takes a little bit longer to get down. It's a sipper. So, sit out on the porch, have something like this. And we played around with this a little bit. We didn't just do Campari. You can do just a Peychaud. This is an aperitivo, any sort of an Aperol or anything like that. But one that I kind of like a little bit, almost as much as the Campari, this is Bercherovka. This is actually a herbal liqueur from the Czech Republic. And it's got all sorts of random stuff in it. I don't think they even list all the ingredients. But this one's vegetal and earthy, where the Campari is sharp and bitter. This one's earthy, and it kind of still twists and combines with the hop in the beer, but instead of making it more bitter, it kind of makes it more rounded and broadens its impact. So, but anything like that you can try with any of these IPAs. What I would avoid though, you get something like Laser Quest 2.0. This is got hibiscus in it already. Don't make it too complicated. Try to stick with a simple beer if you're going to make a cocktail. You've got something that's really weird or, got a whole bunch of extra flavors in it, you're not going to really do it any favors by adding something else usually. That is a seasonal or one-off that the brewer wanted to make, and they wanted it to be good, and, it probably is good, but I'm getting a look. So, choose your beer. Just get a straightforward IPA, get a straightforward, I'm not going to say go buy a 40, but get a straightforward malt liquor, that sort of thing. Don't get something too complicated because it's difficult to make a complicated beer work in a cocktail. And we'll move on from there. So, okay. A brief soapbox. So this is Shabins. This is Thunderhead Brewing. This is their Mid-American Pilsner. And I'm going to share a secret with you. This is a lime. This is salt. I now have a chelada. Ooh. And now that's just great. I love that. So that's a chelada. Nobody in Nebraska should be a stranger to the red beer. Now we have a Michelada. You can even get Clamato juice if you want to. Obviously, I am not endorsed by any brand. But that's literally all you need to do is just a little bit of salt, a little bit of lime, a little bit of tomato juice if you want. And I mean, it's really, really good. That is, I don't want to say that's the flavor of my childhood because that raises questions, but that is definitely at the root of beer that I have enjoyed quite a bit as a young lad. Man, you know what? A couple of pickled eggs and a stalk of celery, that's lunch right there. So pretty simple. As you'll notice, most of the stuff I'm doing is really simple. Beer is already drinkable by itself, so you're literally just adding something else to it to make it interesting. And speaking of which, how long have we got? Oh man, we've only been doing this for 15 minutes. I almost forgot the secret ingredient. You can do this just on the rim too. Like if you're just slumming it in the backyard, literally just put salt and lime on the top of the can, hit it with a shot of Cholula, Tabasco, whatever you got. You got a loaded beer already. You can throw it in. It's going to add a little bit of complexity to your red beer. It's just good. I wanted to avoid really, really heavy drinks for this session because it's spring. And yeah, I know we're all locked up at home, but I can still go out in my backyard and I just want to relax. And I don't want to pass out in the shade. I just want to have a nice, relaxing day. So most of these are going to be not as alcoholic. But I need a cold one. Pint 9, the Frank Sumatra Coffee Stout. This one is called the Trojan Horse. That's a Mexican Coke. I'm going to put these two together. And may God have mercy on my soul. The great thing about this is if you go halvesies on a beer, you can make 2 of these before you run out of ingredients. We keep a bar towel handy. All right. Maybe this is a bad idea, but here we go. Okay, so immediately, that's weird because I'm getting all of the coffee and all of the stout up in the aroma, but I'm also getting that tickle on your nose that you get from soda. Oh, you want to try this one?
Let's go.
All right. Give me your honest opinion.
It's confusing.
She's going back for a second taste.
It kind of reminds me of, appropriately for the glass, Empyrean's Fallen Angel Sweet Stout.
Okay.
But yeah,
It's really interesting because I was not expecting that. I mean, I've had it with just a regular stout before, but that just dialed the coffee way up. Like I drank one of these solo last night, and I was like, "Oh, this is really nice coffee beer," because I hadn't had it before. I wanted to make sure it was going to work. I didn't realize that it would just like the coffee is just exploding out of this right
that's interesting. I did not get that much coffee off of it.
You didn't?
Mhm.
Huh. All right. Your mileage may vary. Man, I'm almost blown through everything already. I'm going too fast. All right. Well, let's take for a moment. Maybe you just don't want to drink out of the can. Sometimes presentation is key. Sometimes all you need is an orange rind, a little bit of something extra, and it can completely change your beer. All right. So what else do we got? Do we have any questions from the audience? Nothing? No? Okay. I got too excited. I blew through too many of these too quickly. All right. So just to come back around, I am occasionally a brewer. Most of the time I'm doing fermented stuff. I've made my own vinegar. I like to pickle things. And something that I've enjoyed doing is finding alternative beverages. And so one of the things I like to put together every once in a while is tapache. Tapache is essentially a fermented pineapple drink beverage. You're putting the whole pineapple in for the most part. You're smashing it up. You're putting some cinnamon sticks in there, maybe even a little bit of hot pepper flakes, something like that. And then filling up your container with water, adding a little bit of yeast, and letting it go crazy. It's usually done in a couple days. It's more like a soda pop and less like an alcoholic beverage. But it goes really well with beer. So again, coming back to the Thunderhead Lager. And this is the basis behind a shandy or a radler. A shandy is basically beer plus lemonade or beer plus like grapefruit aid. A radler is more like if you got like a nice drier grapefruit soda or lemon soda or something like that. But we're going to go pineapple. And here's the thing. If you can get yourself a nice Vienna lager or cerveza of some sort, and literally just mix it 50-50. The tapache is going to obviously be pineapple, but it's also going to be tart. It's going to have a little bit of alcohol funk, but not much. It maybe gets to a couple fractions of a percentage point of alcohol. But when you mix it, you're basically getting a half-strength beer that you can really, really drink. Oh, yeah. And so there's just a little bit of a vinegar hint in the tapache. And so that actually cuts through and makes a very interesting tart beer combination. If you're interested in making your own, I can suggest It's Alive with Brad on YouTube. He makes a tapache on there, amongst other things. But yeah, this is my go-to lawnmower beer. When I started brewing this stuff a couple of years ago, I didn't realize what I was getting into. I drank more Mexican lager in a week than I had in my entire life before that because they're just so good.
We did have a couple of questions from people who wanted to revisit earlier drinks.
Okay.
Can you tell us again about what you used the Campari for and what you did with the Pint 9 beer and which Pint 9 beer that is?
Okay. So the Campari, that was back to, well, basically you can add a Campari or an aperitivo or an aperol, something like that, to an IPA. And we were talking about basically most of your beer cocktails are adding some sort of liqueur or flavorant to a beer in order to augment it. And what I found in general is that an IPA, you would think with the hop profile, that a little bit of sweetness would be a good companion for an IPA. And it doesn't work for me. Every time I try to put in sugar or a syrup or anything else, foremost a sweet flavoring, it kind of muddles the hop character. It kind of flattens it out, and now your taste buds are going for the sugar instead of going for the hop, and it screws the whole thing up. So what we did was we added 1 ounce of Campari to an entire can of, and in this case was the Hazy Stings IPA from First Street, and that's why it's got this wonderful color. And it really, if you're familiar with adding Negronis or anything else, Campari is a very robust bittering agent. And so now you have this very, very broad but very dense bitter front on that beer, and it actually has augmented the hop profile of that beer quite a bit. Now there's still a lot of, this beer in particular, there's still a lot of fruitiness behind there, which is nice. But if I'd have added something sweet to that beer, it wouldn't have worked. It would have screwed it all up. So that's what we did there. We did the Campari, and like I said, you can, if you Campari is too much for you, if this is too bitter, you can, bump down to a Peychaud's. But I also talked a little bit about the Becherovka, which is a Czech herbal liqueur, and that one is less bitter but more earthy and vegetal. So depending on what the hop is and what kind of IPA you're drinking, any of those could work. Any other sort of herbal liqueur could work. We did try gin this afternoon, and I don't know why the aromatics of the gin just didn't work. Maybe it just didn't cooperate with this particular IPA. It just didn't come out very well. It was bland, if anything. It just wasn't good. So, I mean, you can try it, throw gin in an IPA, see if it works for you. But I think this fruitier IPA, it didn't do it any favors. The Pint 9. Pint 9, I picked this up. This is the Frank Sumatra. This is a coffee stout. It's about 6%. And it's a really nice stout. I really enjoyed the coffee on that one. Ooh. Coffee, cola. I want to put some orange in that, see if that helps. And what I did with that is I made a Trojan horse. And the Trojan horse is literally 50-50 split of a cola and a stout beer. See, now that's really weird now. That's almost bringing out chocolate. I get like that, those chocolate oranges. Ooh, what if they made a chocolate orange that had coffee in it? Kind of what it is. Sweet. It's still interesting. It's not, now that it's not effervescent as much as it was, it's not as in your nose with the coffee. But that was really nice when we first poured it. The coffee was in your face. On the plus side, I have to drink all of these when we're done. And there's only 2 of us here, so it might take a while. Any other questions?
Name the coffee beer one more time.
Pint 9, this is Frank Sumatra. I'm assuming Sumatra is the Sumatran coffee that they probably use. No, it just says Surgeon General stuff on the back. I'm pretty sure that's not the coffee. So Pint 9, Frank Sumatra. For our Chelada/Michelada, we did the Shabens. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's the premium Mid-America Pilsner from Thunderhead. Quite nice. And that's really easy, like I said. You can totally just cheap out on that and literally just squeeze out half a lime on the rim, and sprinkle it with salt. Good to go. But if you want to add yourself a little bit of V8 or other tomato juice, get yourself a nice red beer. That's great. The first one that we did was basically a Boilermaker. And that was the Rock Your Saws Off, which is actually kind of a double dip because this is Cosmic Eye and Scratch Down together. But this is an Imperial malt liquor, about 8%. And yeah, basically we put mellow corn in, which I am surprised how cheap this is. If you can find this, just buy a bottle. It's $12. Even if you hate it, you can give it to somebody else. It's 100 proof, 100% corn mash whiskey. It's been bottled in bond, which nobody does anymore, which meant it had to be stored in a government rick house for, I think, 3 years. But yeah, adding a shot of this, like we did about 1.25 ounces, even an ounce, ounce and a half, usually when you're doing a Boilermaker. Added to that. I believe the corn in that actually brings out even more of the malt liquorness of this. But oddly enough, added a little bit of. Yeah, it did. Also, now with that shot, this is like a 9 or 9.5% beer.
Erik, I'm back.
What was that?
That was
Listen,
couple of folks are joining.
Oh. What was the last thing? Oh, the last thing we did was a Tepache. This is just a 50-50 of a light American lager, but traditionally like a Vienna lager or a Mexican lager, arguably the same thing, with a fermented pineapple beverage. And so this is essentially a pineapple shandy, except if you ferment your own Tepache, the Tepache's got kind of a vinegar quality to it. So you're going to get this nice acidic kick that's going to punch right through. And again, that's going to be like half the alcohol. And so you can really drink those. So, all right. I don't want to bore you all. So,
yeah, those were all very interesting, Erik.
hi, Debbie.
Yeah, hey.
I'm getting cue cards in the back.
Yeah, we both are. So yeah, those were very interesting. I'm going to go pick up a bottle of Campari tonight and try that with our Hastings. We just have a fresh batch of cans here now. So that'll be very interesting. And I like the orange idea of just doing that orange and adding and twisting up a different flavor. That's nice.
And that's just again, that's my tiki cocktail stuff. Always have citrus on hand. You never know when you're going to throw it in. I've got umpteen different kinds of syrups. That's what I've also been playing around with. You can get, just a simple syrup is fine, but I've also got ones that have cinnamon in them. I've got one that's got allspice in it. I've got all these different like fruit purees and things that I use if I'm going to mix up and put it in a tiki drink. They work just as well going into some of the beers that we've had. The whole idea is experiment, have fun, look at what you got in the fridge, throw it together, see if it tastes good.
And play with flavors, and if the first thing doesn't work, try it again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me, are you doing your regular cocktail hours like this on a regular basis?
Not on a regular basis yet. It was kind of a pandemic cocktail kind of thing. A little stir crazy. I have a lot of rum. And so it was just one of those like, hey, are you bored? Most of this stuff is readily accessible. Hunt it down, get it put together. And it's the same with all these beer cocktails. I think the only thing I had to go buy was Mexican Coke because I don't drink soda that much.
Yeah, well, now you'll have a bottle on hand for another day, another time, another drink. And I'm sure Gwen, your technical assistant, will have no problem helping you work through those beers, those cocktails that you just made.
Yeah, hope so.
Great. Sit back and watch the rest of the music. She gives a thumbs. Yeah, very much. Well, thanks again for joining us. I appreciate that. And we will catch you again another time, hopefully.
Sorry it went so quick, but there you go. Like I said, experiment, have fun.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, take care.
Say bye.